My name is Serena Caldwell. I am 33 years old. And 8 months ago, I sat at the far end of a holiday dinner table, holding a folder of bank statements, while my mother smiled at 26 relatives and said the words she'd been saying in different forms my entire life. You don't need to be here for this part, sweetheart. You've never really been a celebrations kind of person. She expected me to fold. She expected me to nod and refill someone's water glass. She did not expect what I pulled out next. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This story starts earlier, the way the real stories always do. For 29 months, I sat at my kitchen table on the first of every month and opened my laptop. The routine was so automatic I could have done it in my sleep. Log into the bank portal, navigate to transfers, enter the routing number for the Bellhaven Drive property, enter the amount, $2,200, confirm, my parents' house. The white Craftsman with the wide front steps and the rose bushes my mother had planted the year they moved in. The house where I grew up. It had started the way these things always start, with a phone call. My mother, Patricia, calling late on a Wednesday night, her voice doing what it did when she needed something, softening at the edges, stretched thin like pulled taffy. Serena, honey, we don't know what to do. Your father's surgery set us back further than we expected. My father, Howard, had been a structural engineer for 32 years. A fall at a job site had fractured his hip. The recovery was longer than the doctors had predicted. Insurance covered some of it, not enough. She asked if I could cover the mortgage temporarily, just until things stabilized. Temporarily became 29 months. I never missed a payment. I also renewed their car registration when my mother forgot, scheduled Howard's follow-up appointments when he couldn't navigate the online portal, and covered 3 months of their utility bills when they fell behind during an unusually cold winter. Nobody sent a thank you note. Nobody sent a thank you text. My mother once mentioned to a cousin that I was very dependable. She said it the way you'd describe a washing machine. Meanwhile, my older brother Marcus lived 40 minutes away in a renovated loft, drove a leased Audi, and called home on Sunday evenings to talk about his weekend plans. He contributed nothing. No money, no logistics, no phone calls to the insurance company. But when my mother talked about her children at family gatherings, Marcus's name was always the one that came with a smile attached. I drove a 2016 Toyota Camry with a crack in the dashboard. Every time I pulled into my parents' driveway, I parked beside Marcus's Audi. And every time I told myself the same thing. It doesn't matter. You're doing the right thing. You're helping because they need help. I kept every bank confirmation, every auto transfer receipt. I don't know why exactly. Maybe because some part of me believed that someday someone would look at the numbers and say something true about what they represented. Nobody did. The phone call came on a Thursday morning. My mother's voice at that particular frequency she reserved for good news that was about to become a request. Marcus is engaged. Rebecca proposed over the weekend. They want to do something special. A destination celebration, Tuscany in September. I said congratulations. I meant it. Marcus and Rebecca had been together for 3 years. She was organized and sharp and had a way of making a room feel warmer. Then came the pivot. Now, honey, Marcus and I were talking. Someone needs to coordinate the logistics on our end. The villa rental, the travel arrangements. You're so good at that kind of thing. You always have been. So I became the travel coordinator for a celebration I didn't know, yet I wasn't invited to. I spent 4 evenings researching properties in the Chianti region. Stone farmhouses with cypress trees and terracotta rooftops. I found a villa that seated 22, had a private pool and a restored chapel on the grounds. $12,000 for the week. 50% due up front to hold the reservation. I put down the deposit, my card, my name on the contract. Rebecca didn't want the charge appearing on a shared account while she and Marcus were combining finances. My mother's credit limit wouldn't stretch that far. Rebecca sent me a 3-page document the next day. Dietary notes for 4 of Marcus's friends, preferred room assignments. A request for early check-in, not a single line of it said thank you. I scrolled to the bottom looking for a guest count. I didn't see my name anywhere in the roster. I told myself it was a draft. I should have known better. I'd had enough practice. The pattern had been there for years if I'd been willing to look directly at it. When I finished my accounting degree, I walked across the stage with honors. My parents arrived 25 minutes late. Marcus had a work call that ran over. My mother spent the reception taking photos on her phone to send him. When my daughter Nina was born, 7 pounds and healthy, the most significant day of my life, my mother arrived at the hospital 36 hours later. Sorry, sweetheart. Marcus was moving to his new place, and you know how he gets with logistics. She held Nina for maybe 8 minutes, took 2 photos, and left to meet Marcus for dinner. Last Christmas, I cooked the entire meal for 14 people at my parents' house. The roast, the sides, the desserts. When the family settled around the table and my aunt praised the food, my mother smiled and said Marcus picked the wines. Marcus had texted a single recommendation from his couch. After that Christmas, I sat in my car in my parents' driveway for a long time before driving home. I texted my friend Donna Pierce, the kind of friend who told you the truth even when you hadn't asked for it. Is this normal, or am I the only one who sees it? Her reply came quickly. You're not imagining it, you never were. I sat with that text for a long time. Nina asked about Tuscany on a Tuesday evening. We were having dinner at our small table, the one I'd assembled myself with a borrowed drill and a YouTube tutorial. She was 6 years old, with my eyes and Howard's stubborn jawline. Mommy, are we going on the trip? She'd caught part of a phone call that afternoon, my mother's voice coming through the speaker with all its enthusiasm for villa layouts and packing lists. We'll see, I told her. I hated that answer. We'll see was what you said when the truth was too complicated to hand to a 6-year-old. After Nina fell asleep, I opened my laptop. I went back through the transfers. $2,200 month after month. Property tax payments. Utility gaps I'd covered. A plumber I'd paid for when my mother called on a Saturday saying there was water under the kitchen sink. I opened a calculator. 29 months of mortgage payments, $63,800. The villa deposit, $12,000. Miscellaneous expenses absorbed without being asked, $7,000 roughly. $82,800. I created a folder on my desktop. I named it Household Records. I saved everything in it, not as a threat. Just because I was an accountant and accountants kept records, that was what we did. 3 weeks later, I found out why my name wasn't on the guest list. I called Marcus on a Saturday morning, keeping my voice easy and light. Hey, I was going over the villa documents and noticed I wasn't on the roster. Should I add myself, or are you handling that separately? Silence, the kind that told me he'd been caught unprepared for the question. Oh, he cleared his throat. Mom said she'd talk to you about that. The floor shifted under me. I felt it in my chest before my brain finished processing it. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, already mid-thought about room assignments. Mom, Marcus said you'd spoken to me about the guest list. A pause, then her voice adjusted. Not defensive, not apologetic, matter of fact. It's a small group, Serena. Rebecca's family has very specific ideas about how they want things to feel. A single mother with a young child. It changes the energy. You understand. She let that sit. Then she added, and someone needs to be home with Nina. I was standing in the break room at my office. The coffee maker was dripping. The fluorescent light above me hummed. I caught my own reflection in the window of the microwave and saw exactly what she'd described. Tired, practical, easy to overlook. I didn't argue. I didn't ask her to reconsider. I said I understood and ended the call. This hadn't been a mistake. Marcus's silence proved it. My mother's rehearsed delivery confirmed it. They had discussed this. They had decided together that I didn't fit the image and then arranged to tell me gently enough that I wouldn't cause trouble. The only part they hadn't accounted for was what I might eventually decide to do with the information. I found out about the group chat from my Aunt Carol, my mother's older sister, who had a gift for sharing things she hadn't fully considered sharing. She called me about a recipe and mentioned in passing, oh, and I already told Patricia in the Tuscany group that I'd handle my own airport transfer. The Tuscany group. A family group chat for the trip. That I wasn't in. Carol caught herself a beat too late. Her voice shifted into the register of someone who'd accidentally walked through a wall and was hoping no one had noticed. After we hung up, I sat very still. My mother had created a family travel thread. She'd added aunts, cousins, family friends. She'd left me out. While I was still paying for the villa they were chatting about, Carol texted me a screenshot later that evening. She'd felt guilty and didn't know how else to handle it. The group was called Tuscany September with a sun emoji and a wine glass. 41 messages. Hotel recommendations near the villa. Who was bringing which adapters? A question about the pool depth for someone's toddler. And there, between logistics, a message from my mother. Serena's going to sit this one out. She's more of a homebody, doesn't love big group travel. You know how she is. She hadn't excluded me. She'd explained me away. In the group chat, I wasn't the woman who'd put down $12,000 to hold the villa they were all making plans around. I was the quiet one, the homebody, the one who'd rather stay behind. She had built a story before I had any idea a story was being told. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, my mother called again. Warm voice, familiar cadence. I know you always do Thanksgiving, Serena. You're so much better at it than Marcus and I. She wanted me to cook a holiday dinner for 20 people. For the family that had decided I didn't fit the image of a destination celebration. Sure, Mom, I'll handle it. I said it calmly. I was already thinking about something else. That afternoon, I went to a stationery store and bought a clear plastic folder with reinforced edges. That evening, I printed everything. 39 months of bank transfer confirmations, the villa contract with my name in the signature line, the email thread with the property coordinator, utility bills I'd covered, every receipt I had on file. I stacked them in order and slid them into the folder. My thumb ran along the edge. It was maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. It held $82,000 of truth. Donna didn't let me ease into it when I finally told her. We were at a coffee shop near her architecture firm, afternoon light coming through the windows, 2 flat whites going cold between us. She listened to everything. The call about the guest list, the group chat, the villa, the mortgage. When I finished, she leaned forward. Serena, you've been sending them money for almost 3 years. You live in a 2-bedroom with Nina on a pullout. You've been skipping your own dental checkups. I hadn't told her about the dental checkups. What happens, she said slowly, if you just stop? I hadn't let myself think it that directly before. But sitting across from Donna with the numbers still fresh, I let the thought complete itself. If I stopped the mortgage payments, my parents would have maybe 60 days before things became critical. Howard's disability income barely covered the property taxes. My mother hadn't worked in years. If I canceled the villa, Marcus and Rebecca would lose their venue with roughly 4 months to find another property in peak season in one of the most booked regions of Italy. You're not abandoning them, Donna said. They made a choice about where you fit. You're just making your own choice now. I drove to my parents' house on a Thursday evening to try one more time. My father was in the garage, his space. The smell of sawdust and machine oil, a radio playing something soft. He was restoring a mirror frame, steady, careful strokes with sandpaper. That's beautiful, Dad. What's it for? He didn't look up. Your mother wants it for Marcus's engagement photo, the one from the weekend he proposed. I sat on a nearby stool. Dad, did you know Mom told Rebecca's family that I'm not comfortable in formal settings, that I prefer to stay home? His hand slowed on the sandpaper. She said it while I'm writing the checks for this house. Did you know that? He set the sandpaper down, rubbed his thumb across his palm. Your mother has her ways, Serena. She means well. I know it doesn't always feel that way. Don't push it into something bigger than it has to be. He turned back to the frame. I looked around the garage. Fishing gear along one wall, a shelf of old tools, 3 framed photos of Marcus at different ages, school portrait, his college graduation, a hiking trip from a few years back. I counted twice because I wanted to be sure. There wasn't a single photograph of me. That was the last time I asked any of them to see me clearly. I wasn't looking for anything I shouldn't have seen. My mother had given me access to her email when I was coordinating the villa booking. The login was still saved in my browser, and she'd never changed the password. I went back in to check the cancellation clause in the original contract, but when I opened the inbox, I saw a thread I hadn't noticed before. Subject line, September travel, guest notes. It was from Rebecca's mother, Harriet. A polite email asking about dietary needs and whether there were any guests who might need mobility accommodations. My mother's reply was dated 2 months before she'd asked me to book the villa. Serena won't be joining us. She's always been more of a quiet, homebody type. She's a wonderful person, but she tends to find big social gatherings a bit much. I think everyone will have a more relaxed time without the added dynamic. I hope that makes sense. Harriet's response, of course, Patricia, whatever you feel is right. 2 months before she'd asked me to put down $12,000. Before the group chat. Before the call about the guest list. Before she'd acted as though it was a reluctant and practical decision made for the sake of the event. It wasn't reluctant. It had been decided before she'd even picked up the phone to ask for my help. I printed the email chain, added it to the folder. The folder was getting thicker. I was getting quieter. I'd noticed those two things tended to move together. Thanksgiving morning. I dressed Nina in her navy dress with the white collar. She spent 10 minutes in front of the bathroom mirror arranging her hair with a level of seriousness I found genuinely moving. I put on a structured blazer over a dark blouse. Not my usual holiday clothes, something different, something that said I wasn't there to manage the kitchen. I brought one dish, a cranberry salad. My mother had asked me to cook for 20 people. Somewhere between that conversation and this morning, I'd decided that was the last time I'd agree to things I no longer intended to honor. The folder was in my bag. I'd checked its contents twice before leaving the apartment. The house was full when we arrived. Cars along the driveway, voices from inside, the warm smell of whatever someone else had managed to put together. I held Nina's hand as we walked up the steps. Inside, my mother was at the center of everything, as always, moving through the room with the ease of someone who had arranged every element exactly as she wanted it. She saw me and smiled, the smile of a woman confident in her script. Everyone settled around the table. 23 people, my mother's best dishes, cloth napkins, and tall candles. My mother stood and tapped her glass. I just want to say how grateful I am for this family. And I'm so excited to announce that next September, we are taking a family trip to Tuscany to celebrate Marcus and Rebecca's engagement. A proper celebration in Italy. The table reacted the way she'd intended. Smiles, raised glasses, congratulations crossing back and forth. I waited until the noise settled. What dates in September? My mother looked at me. The smile didn't disappear, it adjusted. Oh, sweetheart, you don't need to worry about the dates. You know how you are with big group trips. You and Nina will have a wonderful time here. The table went quiet. I reached into my bag and placed the folder on the table beside my cranberry salad. Since we're sharing good news, I said, I have some information the family might find useful. I opened the folder to the first section. 39 monthly transfer confirmations, organized chronologically. For the past 3 years, I've been paying the mortgage on this house. $2,200 a month. That's $63,800. I set down the villa contract. My name, my card number, the property address in Tuscany in bold. I also booked and paid the deposit on the Tuscany villa, $12,000. Then the email. My mother's words to Harriet, printed clearly, dated 2 months before the booking request. And this is my mother telling Rebecca's family that I prefer to stay home. Sent 2 months before she asked me to put down the deposit for the celebration I wasn't invited to. The table was silent. My mother's face had gone pale, the specific kind of pallor that begins at the jawline and spreads upward. I closed the folder. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to say that the mortgage payment stops on the 1st of next month, and the villa reservation is in my name. I'll be contacting the property next week about the cancellation policy. My mother found her voice first. Serena, this is Thanksgiving dinner. This is a family gathering. Marcus's voice came from across the table, strained and rising. You can't cancel the villa. That's our engagement celebration. The contract is in my name, I said. The card on file is mine. Legally, the reservation is mine to cancel. My father was staring at the table. His jaw moved, but nothing came out. The whispers started moving around the table. My Aunt Carol leaning toward her husband. Wait, Serena has been paying the mortgage? Uncle James looking at my father with an expression I'd never seen him use before. I picked up Nina's jacket from the back of her chair. I took her hand. 23 people watched us leave. Nobody moved to stop us. In the car, I buckled Nina in and checked the strap twice. She looked at me through the window. I got into the driver's seat and held the steering wheel and stared at the front of the house for a long moment. The porch light was on. Voices inside, raised now, moving through the walls. Mommy, is everything okay? Everything is going to be okay, I told her. That's different from everything being okay right now. She considered that. Then she nodded slowly, the way children do when they accept something they don't fully understand but sense is true. My phone buzzed, my mother, then Marcus, then a cousin asking what was going on. I didn't answer any of them. I drove home through the empty afternoon streets, and I did not look back. The first 2 days were the hardest. I kept the blinds down. Nina colored on the living room floor. I kept my phone face down, could feel it buzzing through the counter like a second pulse. My mother left 3 voicemails in 12 hours. I listened to the first one. She moved through grief and anger and bargaining in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. You're destroying this family, Serena. After everything I've done, you're being completely irrational. Marcus texted 11 times. The first few were wounded. How could you do this to us? Then they shifted. This is so typical of you, making everything about yourself. By the last one, he'd landed on the argument that clearly mattered most. Rebecca's parents are going to think we're a complete disaster. Cousins weighed in with the predictable advice. Just apologize, you know how your mother is. It's not worth the fight. At midnight, I was sitting on the bathroom floor, the tile cold, Nina asleep. The pull was enormous. Every instinct trained over 33 years said pick up the phone, say sorry, smooth it over, restore the order. Be easy, be manageable, be Serena. For 6 hours, I almost gave in. Then I opened my laptop, the folder on the desktop, household records. I clicked it open, every transfer, every confirmation, $2,200 month after month. I opened the calculator, ran the numbers again. $82,800. In that same period, I had slept on a pull-out couch when my cousin visited because I only had 1 bedroom. I had skipped my own dentist appointments because the copay felt like a luxury I couldn't justify. I had bought Nina's winter coat secondhand. I closed the laptop, the phone was still buzzing. I pressed the power button and watched the screen go dark. That was the last night I considered going back. My manager, Claire Hendricks, called me into her office on a Monday morning. She was the kind of person who kept fresh flowers on her desk and made every difficult conversation feel like a reasonable one. She'd hired me at Hartfield Accounting 4 years ago and had never once commented on anything outside my work. Close the door, Serena. I sat down. Hartfield is opening a branch in Asheville, North Carolina. We'd like to offer you the lead position. Small team to start, real autonomy. And she paused, a modest salary increase. Nothing dramatic, but it's real. She met my eyes, and Asheville is about 4 hours from here. 4 hours, I've watched you carry a lot, she said. I don't know the details and I won't ask, but you deserve a clean start somewhere. Asheville has good schools, reasonable cost of living. Can I think about it? Of course, the position begins April 1st. I'll need your answer by mid-February. April 1st. I sat in my car afterward and thought about the symmetry of it. A new start offered just when the old life had become untenable. My Uncle Dean called 2 weeks later. My father's younger brother, the one who'd been absent from every family gathering for the better part of a decade. Lorraine always referred to him as the one who couldn't keep the peace. He'd heard about Thanksgiving from Carol. Serena, I know exactly what you're going through. Your mother did something very similar to me 15 years ago. He told me about a milestone birthday celebration he'd been excluded from and how my mother had explained his absence to the family as a personality conflict, that Dean had never been comfortable with big gatherings. Sound familiar? I felt something loosen in my chest. I spent years trying to make her see me, he said. It never worked. One day I stopped trying, Built my life in Charlotte, it's a good life. He offered a real estate contact in Asheville. Someone who could help me find something affordable on a reasonable timeline. I'd spent 33 years thinking I was the only one who noticed the pattern. Turns out someone else had survived it. I made the call on a Wednesday at lunch. My office door closed. The villa coordinator answered from Tuscany, her English precise and professional. I confirmed the reservation number, gave my name, confirmed the card on file. As the registered contract holder, she said, you have full authority to cancel this reservation. Per the terms agreed at booking, cancellations made more than 90 days prior to check-in are subject to a $1,500 administrative fee. The remaining balance will be refunded to your original payment method within 21 business days. Please proceed with the cancellation. Confirmed, you'll receive written confirmation within the hour. The call took 4 minutes. 3 years of being used, undone in 4 minutes. The confirmation arrived at 12:52 p.m. I saved it, printed it, added it to the folder. Then I drafted an email to my mother and Marcus. Subject line, Villa cancellation, Tuscany September reservation. The villa reservation has been canceled effective today as permitted under the contract terms, of which I am the registered holder. Cancellation confirmation is attached. I wish Marcus and Rebecca a wonderful engagement celebration. I press send. 17 minutes later, Marcus called, then called again, then again. I watched the screen pulse and go still. Pulse and go still. I put my phone in my desk drawer and went back to work. I had clients who needed my attention. The written notice I sent my parents was harder to compose than the villa cancellation. Phone calls vanish into air. Letters land on tables. I wrote it by hand on plain paper. Dear Mom and Dad, this letter is to inform you that I will no longer be making payments on the Belhaven Drive mortgage effective March 1st. Enclosed, please find documentation of all 39 monthly transfers I have made on your behalf, totaling $63,800. This is not intended as punishment. It is a correction. I am no longer able to fund a household that has communicated clearly in writing that I am not considered part of it. I wish you both well. Serena. I read it 4 times, changed nothing, sealed it, and sent it certified mail. I logged into the bank portal that evening and removed the auto transfer. The system asked me to confirm. I confirmed. The scheduled payment for March 1st, $2,200, was removed from the queue. I sat very still afterward, looking at the screen. That evening, Nina and I had dinner together. Pasta and butter. Milk for her, tea for me. She told me about a book she was reading at school, something about a girl who trained horses. It was the most ordinary dinner I'd ever had. It was the most peaceful meal I could remember. Donna came over later with a bottle of wine and a box of packing tape. She stood in my doorway, looking at the stack of boxes against the living room wall. This is really real. It's really real. She got to work without ceremony, wrapping glasses in newspaper, writing on boxes in her clear handwriting. Kitchen, Nina's things. Books, Nina helped by placing her stuffed animals in a box and then rearranging them 3 times before she was satisfied. She didn't understand what moving meant yet. She just knew we were putting things in boxes and that I seemed different lately. Lighter, she might have said if she'd had that word. Donna had connected me with Dean's real estate contact. A 2-bedroom apartment near the River Arts District in Asheville. More space than we'd had. A small yard. A bedroom with a door that actually closed. Are you going to say goodbye to them? No, I said. She nodded. She understood that a real goodbye required both people to care about the ending. I already knew which side of that I was on. We drove out on a Saturday morning. Nina fell asleep before we reached the highway. I watched the exit signs pass through the windshield one by one. For the first time in 33 years, nobody called to ask me to do anything. Asheville received us the way a city receives someone who has driven far enough to mean it. The apartment was on a street where the trees were old and the sidewalks were uneven, and the neighbors left potted plants on their porches. 2 real bedrooms. A kitchen with a window above the sink. A small porch where Nina immediately claimed the wicker chair. Her first week at Granville Elementary, she came home with a painting she'd made and a new friend named Theo. "Mommy, there's a creek at recess." "How was the creek?" She considered this seriously. "Wet." I stood in our new kitchen laughing, and could not remember the last time I had laughed like that, freely, without wondering who was going to need something from me in the next 5 minutes. Work at the Hartfield-Asheville branch was steady and clean. My supervisor, Patrick, gave me clear expectations and said thank you when I met them. The novelty of that took some getting used to. On Saturdays, Nina and I walked to a market near the river. Local honey, handmade ceramics, a woman who sold sourdough from a wagon. Nina had a routine. She'd spend 20 minutes looking at the dog rescue tent, even though we didn't have a dog. I'd follow behind with coffee and watch her move through the crowd, unhurried, easy, at home in her own small body. Donna kept me updated the way a good friend does. Not to keep the wound open, but because she believed I deserved to know what happened after. The Tuscany villa search had not gone well. Marcus and Rebecca spent 3 weeks contacting properties in the region. The calendar was full. What was available was either outside their budget or far from what they'd imagined. They found a vineyard with a private dining room outside Florence, smaller than the original venue. No pool, no chapel. Rebecca reportedly cried when she saw the virtual tour. The mortgage situation was harder. My parents missed the March payment. The servicer sent a notice. Howard called their bank about refinancing and was told the income-to-debt ratio required a cosigner. My father called Dean to ask for help. Dean said no, but gently. "I love you, Howard, but I'm not going to fund the same dynamic that Diana had to extract herself from." My mother tried to reach me through every channel she could find. My number was blocked. She sent emails. I didn't open them. She apparently reached out to Donna twice. Donna responded to both messages with 2 words: "She's well." They showed up at my office on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after I'd moved. Patrick appeared in my doorway with a careful expression. "Serena, there are 2 people in the lobby. They say they're family." I walked out slowly. Through the glass I could see my mother in her good coat, handbag held in front of her like a shield. Marcus beside her in a jacket I'd never seen before, arms folded. My mother's voice reached me before the door opened. "Serena, we need to talk about this like adults." The receptionist was watching. 2 colleagues near the window. Patrick stepped forward calmly. "Can I help you? This is a workplace." Marcus turned to him. "This is a private family matter." "And this is Serena's place of work," Patrick said without raising his voice. I pushed through the door. "5 minutes," I said. Patrick leaned against the reception desk, arms crossed, visible, saying nothing. I noticed, as I walked to the parking lot, that this man I'd known for 3 weeks had more respect for my space than my own family had shown in 33 years. The afternoon was cool and bright. My mother stood with her back straight. "You need to uncancel the villa. There is still time to sort this out." "The cancellation has been processed and confirmed," I said. "The refund is coming back to me." Marcus's voice pitched higher. "You're doing this because of one comment at Thanksgiving. Mom said one thing." I looked at him. Mom told Rebecca's family I was a homebody who didn't like group travel. She sent that email 2 months before she asked me to put down the deposit. She built a group chat and left me out while I was still paying for the property they were all making plans about. And she did all of it while I was writing the checks for Mom and Dad's house. I held his gaze. "That's not one comment, that's a pattern." Lorraine's voice hardened. "I am your mother. And I am your daughter. And you made it clear at that table what my role in this family was." The parking lot was quiet. A car passed on the street. Somewhere above us, a bird called out twice and stopped. Neither of them said sorry. The word just existed as a possibility between us, like a door that nobody reached for. "I hope the celebration is everything you want it to be," I said. "I mean that genuinely. But I won't be paying for it, and I won't be pretending anymore." I went back inside. The glass door closed behind me with a click, so quiet it was almost nothing. Almost. The truth spread the way truth always spreads. Not in a single wave, but in small corrections, one conversation at a time. Donna called me 6 weeks later. She'd had dinner with Carol, who'd spoken to her daughter, who'd talked to a cousin who'd been at Thanksgiving. The engagement celebration in Italy happened. A smaller venue. 14 guests instead of 22. A private dining room, not an estate. My mother smiled in every photo, but Carol said her eyes looked like someone had turned down a dimmer she couldn't find the switch for. The mortgage was restructured at a higher monthly payment. Howard sold the Audi to cover the gap. My mother took a part-time position at a garden center, her first paycheck in over a decade. The house on Bellhaven Drive was still theirs, but for the first time, they understood exactly what it had cost to keep it. Cousins texted me over the following months. Short, careful messages. I didn't know, I'm sorry, I should have asked sooner. I thanked each one and didn't elaborate. The unexpected call came from Rebecca. She'd gotten my number from Carol. Serena, I want you to know that I didn't know any of this was happening until Thanksgiving. When I did know, I told Marcus it was wrong. He agreed. I'm sorry it happened the way it did. I thanked her, I meant it, but I didn't engage further. That was their life to work out. The envelope from my father arrived in July. Plain white. His handwriting on the outside, that careful measured print of a man who'd spent his life making sure measurements were exact. I opened it at the kitchen table while Nina did a puzzle on the floor. The sound of a summer afternoon through the open window. One page, no preamble, Serena. I've been sitting with what to say for months and I still don't have the right words. I know that's not an excuse. I should have said something a long time ago. At Thanksgiving, in the garage, at every dinner where your mother said something that made you smaller and I looked at the table instead. I told myself I was keeping the peace. I was keeping my comfort. They're not the same thing. I'm not writing to ask you to come back or to pay anything. I'm writing because you're my daughter and you deserved a father who stood up for you. I didn't. That's mine to carry. Nina looks like you did when you were small. Same serious eyes. Same way of tilting her head when she's thinking something through. I miss you both. I understand if you need time. I understand if it's a lot of time. Love, Dad. I read it twice. The second time, my vision blurred at the edges. It wasn't a full apology. He didn't address my mother. He didn't say what he'd do differently. But it was the most honest thing he'd ever put in writing. I folded the letter and put it in my bedside drawer. Not to frame it, not to respond to it immediately, just to let it exist. Like a door left slightly open. My mother's letter came through Donna, delivered by hand, because every direct line to me was blocked. Donna called before she opened it. It's from Patricia. Do you want me to read it first? Go ahead. I heard the envelope open. A pause, then Donna's voice carefully flat. She says she misses you and wants the family to heal, mostly guilt, some nostalgia. A line about how Thanksgiving was taken out of context. She paused longer this time. Serena, she attached an invoice. She what? From the Tuscany venue. The replacement property cost $4,000 more than the original villa. She's asking you to cover the difference. I was sitting on my porch in Asheville, the wicker chair, evening coming through the trees. I laughed. Not bitterly, genuinely. The kind of laugh that happens when something is so perfectly consistent with everything you already know that surprise would be impossible. Donna laughed too, a shorter, sharper sound. I swear this woman operates on a completely different frequency. I didn't reply to the letter. There was nothing left to say to someone who could attach a reconciliation note to a payment demand and find no contradiction in that. Dean called that evening. We'd been talking every couple of weeks by then. Let me guess, he said. She sent a letter with a bill in it. How did you know? She sent me one in 2009, Gerald's retirement dinner, the one she didn't invite me to. Some patterns don't just repeat, it turns out. They get handed down. By autumn, Asheville had stopped feeling like the place I'd moved to and started feeling like the place I was from. Nina and I had a Saturday routine. Farmer's market near the river. She'd stop at the same soap vendor every week, sniffing each bar with the concentration of a scientist. I'd stand behind her with my coffee and watch her and think about the word that had taken me so long to learn to apply to myself. Mine. This morning, these trees, this child, this life. Mine. Work was steady. Patrick trusted me with a second portfolio of clients. I'd enrolled in a continuing education course on a Thursday evenings, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I started therapy in September, not because something was broken, because I wanted to understand the wiring well enough to make sure Nina never inherited it. My father texted in October, just 2 sentences. I've been thinking about what you said, about an honest conversation. When you're ready, no pressure. I texted back, when the time feels right, I'll reach out. And I meant it. I used to believe my worth was directly proportional to how useful I was to other people. I carried that belief so long I couldn't see how much it had cost me. The folder is in a box in my closet now. I don't open it anymore. It served its purpose. It held the truth steady long enough for me to be able to say it out loud, but the real record of who I am isn't in bank transfers or cancellation confirmations. It's in the way Nina moves through the farmer's market with her shoulders back. It's in the wicker chair on the porch. It's in the Tuesday evenings when I cook dinner without calculating who else needs to be fed. If you are the Serena in your family, the one who manages everything and receives nothing, the one whose name comes up last, who drives the car with the warning light, who sleeps on the pullout when someone needs the bed, hear this. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to be completely, quietly, undramatically okay afterward. That is not betrayal. That is finally choosing yourself. Mommy, Nina appeared in the kitchen doorway, shoes in her hand. Can we go to the market? She already had her jacket on. Yeah, baby, let's go. If this story touched your heart, if you felt every silent sacrifice, every moment Serena swallowed her pain and kept showing up anyway, then hit that like button right now. It means more than you know. And if you're new here, subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell, because every week we bring you powerful stories just like this one, about real strength, real family, and real courage. Drop a comment below and tell me which moment hit you the hardest. Was it the Thanksgiving confrontation, the villa cancellation, or the letter with the invoice attached? I read every single one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next story.